Iori Samura is a Kagurabachi character that has been the topic of many debates over her future. Many believe she will carry on the legacy of her father, Seiichi Samura, after what is believed to be an inevitable death. There is an equal push against this idea, and in this video, we're going over everything we have on Iori so far, the past before her, and which one I'm putting my money on. Before we begin, I want to apologize if my voice sounds off. I've been recovering, but straining my vocal cords still hurts. Shrimp, my editor, please pull up a voice clip of me trying to talk on Alonzi's stream for chapter 106.
Reset theory, reset theory. I got all my cards on reset theory.
What is
Yeah, I don't hate.
Yeah, I've been going through it. Anyways, hope y'all enjoy the video. Iori's past is quite the easy thing to go over, as it's essentially fully contained to 3 chapters. As a little girl, her father Seiichi Samura left her out of guilt for his crimes in the Seitei War. When she was 9, she was forced to live with him for a few months because her mother Iori fell ill. Eventually, Iori died, and custody of Iori was fully transferred to Samura. Following her passing, Yuta appeared to warn Samura of an incoming catastrophe. This was followed up by 6 months of Iori being bullied and the Samura house being constantly vandalized, thanks to Yuta and his allies spreading information about the Kodoku. Eventually, Samura found out about this, despite Iori's attempts to hide the information from him, and he had her sent away to Kyoto to live with her aunt. Then, in the months following Kunishige Rokuhiro's assassination, Samura would have the Masamori cast a memory wipe spell to seal away Iori Samura, leaving only a shell of a reconstruction called Iori Yoshiura to live out a normal life, unburdened by her pain of her life as Seiichi Samura's daughter. Iori spent the rest of her days living as a normal girl until her father reunited with his enchanted blade Tobimune. Using Owl to cover the nation, it began to trigger memories of her old self to weaken the seal. Chihiro and the Masamori would take her to the Kyoto Bloodshed Hotel, a beacon of safety, so that the seal could be perfectly cast. However, things went wrong, as the Hishaku broke the rules of the Bloodshed Hotel to try to kidnap Iori. Iori was forced into a position by her classmate Ikura to choose between her life at school as Iori Yoshiura or her life as Iori Samura. She broke the seal and chose to live as both. Iori wants to live as Iori Samura to protect her life as Iori Yoshiura. Currently, in the story, she's managed to reconcile with her father and earn the right to keep her memories unsealed. But with the way the power scale of the verse is going, it will be difficult for her to hang. Iori's fighting style focuses on non-lethality, and all she knows is the white purity style. Even with that, the Bloodshed Hotel was her first time in live combat using it, and it was her first time in 3 years using a katana. If Iori wants to keep a place on the front lines, she and Hakari will both have to evolve to be equal allies for Chihiro. I think Hakari's path is quite obvious. He will find a mentor in Uruha and potentially even either Shiba or Izami once he's healed. But for Iori, I think her path to power will be a little different. Let's start with the most popular fan idea for where Iori's character will go. The first path available to Iori left me speechless. The popularity of this potential path disgusts me. I can't believe that we as a community are this boring, this unimaginative, this illiterate. I can't even believe that we as a fandom would come to the conclusion that Iori inheriting Tobimune is peak writing, when in reality it's hype moments and aura slop. Let's talk about it. Iori inheriting Tobimune, which I will call Iori Mune from this point onwards, is the path before Iori where Seiichi Samura dies either at the end of this arc or at some point in the subsequent arc. In this path, Iori becomes the new contracted bearer of Tobimune. She takes over Samura's role as a healer and support player and becomes a key ally capable of standing alongside Chihiro. With her experience with the White Purity style and knowledge of how Samura used Tobimune, it wouldn't be too hard for her to be able to learn how to reach its true realm and truly make the blade her own. Supporters of this path cite the power scale and the fact that stakes cannot exist with Samura in the story. He can undo mortal wounds and is the sole reason that Yuta hasn't slaughtered Chihiro in the ongoing fight. I understand these concerns, but respectfully, have you seen what Soga's done with Magatsumi? The power scale is not at all a risk. Soga's a peerless swordsman who I don't even know how they beat. I go as far as to say they don't even actually beat Soga. Rather, he got bored. When the 5 sword bearers fought him at the end of the Seitei War, he realized that his role had been fulfilled and he found no purpose in further combat. He willingly surrendered himself, content to rot in his prison. From this perspective, losing Samura effectively renders combat with Soga an impossibility. How are they going to last more than 5 seconds when Samura himself can't tank a butterfly or dragonfly without Suzaku? On a narrative level, there's also plenty wrong with Samura dying. Samura has spent an entire sub-arc as the center of an emotional struggle where Chihiro is fighting to find a way for him to live. Samura has been fighting to die, believing his suffering is noble because he will be able to avenge the people of the island. He believed he was a curse that must be eradicated for his loved ones to live a happy life, and it was Chihiro bearing the blade that shatters the chains of legacy that was able to show Samura exactly how much he meant to his loved ones. The emotional conflict of Enten versus Tobimune is rendered null and void if it was all just to immediately kill Samura off after. Why even fight? Why reunite him with Iori if only to kill him off before he's able to make up for lost time? In a story so deeply tied to fatherhood, following a conflict where a father was able to finally be there for his daughter, where family trauma is healed, why take that away? What's the point of the message? That even if a father tries to do good and repair his relationship with his daughter, that he should just die and leave his legacy to her? Make her clean up his mess? No, that's not the point of or the message of Kagurabachi. Even with Chihiro and Kunishige, while Chihiro is left to clean up Kunishige's mess, that wasn't Kunishige's intention. They made a blade to clean up their mess together. They carved the path to redeeming the blood-stained hands of the Rokuhira legacy together. Samura is being given that opportunity to do exactly that, together with Chihiro and Iori. I just don't see why something so resonant with the themes of Kagurabachi would be thrown out for a reason as hollow as keeping the stakes high. As I said before, Soge and even just Magatsumi Yura are massively more powerful than Samura. Sheathed Magatsumi is letting out dragonflies that would kill Samura if they hit his head. You expect me to believe that Samura has to die to keep the stakes intact? No, he doesn't. Hokusano could have just as easily incapacitated him to leave him out of the story and put him out of commission for an arc. We still don't fully know how he's been running on infinite spirit energy, and it's possible that it will catch up with him, leading to him being forced to leave the battlefield for an extended period of time. And finally, my last issue with this is the narrative implications of Iori Mune. Think about what the enchanted blades represent and what it means for Iori to be forced to take up Tobimune. Just sit and think. I'll give you a couple seconds. Iori as a sword bearer will be forced to take up the burdens of the past, chained to the legacy of her father, something that would be against Samura's wishes. Samura himself wouldn't want Iori to wield Tobimune, especially taking into account the contracts. Iori's life would be tied to Soga's, something Samura would despise. Samura has been built up to learn how to carry the burdens of the future together, allowing Chihiro and Iori to shoulder that burden, not completely take it all upon himself. It's not fair to Samura's character, and especially not fair to Iori's character. Iori as a character, while well written, is very much tied to Samura. Iori herself does not have much to stand on in terms of who she is as a character, which is to be expected given her low chapter count and the main conflict of Enten versus Tobimune. However, this is not the way to make Iori her own character independent of Samura. This just reduces her to Samura 2.0 and a worse version of that. There's very little advantage to the team for having a worse version of Samura. He honed his skills over decades, but Iori barely has any experience to her name. Even Hirihiko had a lifetime of experience to his name before he touched the enchanted blade, with a warm-up round against Chihiro to acclimate him to swordplay before he even started using Kumayuri. Why would Iori be able to hang at all without an extensive training arc? This leads into the next path, but before that, I want to bring up the possibility of a time skip. It's possible that coming out of the Swordbear assassination arc, we're going to see Kagurabachi enter a time skip following a variety of potential outcomes. Regardless of the specific outcome, this can feed into either Iori Mune or the next one. They require extensive training and time, so an argument can be made that either of these power-ups will be fitting the mandatory time skip power-up that Iori will get. Let's discuss an alternate path for Iori. One where she finds her own place and makes her own identity instead of living in the constant shadow of her father. One where instead of being forced to carry his burdens and legacy, she is able to truly work with him to create a new future. While she's not as strong as Samura, she'll be a formidable ally against the Hishaku and any future threats in Kagurabachi. Let's discuss Iori joining the Masami, or Masami Iori. In this path, Iori learns the fundamentals of sorcery from stealth techniques to barriers and even some healing. She learns every fundamental aspect of sorcery to augment her non-lethal white purity style and potentially even learns how to use her innate sorcery. While this doesn't fit Masami standards, Chihiro was their boss while being a sword bearer, so I think there are exceptions made for members not raised up as ninjas from birth. Regardless, it's become clear that since serving Samura, the Masami have begun to change from the unfeeling machines they were raised to be. It wouldn't be too out of the question, especially considering the relationship to her father, for her to be taken in and trained. This would complement the journeys of Hakuri and Chihiro in an interesting way. They all bear power from their fathers in different ways and express it uniquely. Hakuri would take the first path to power, the path of Soshiro Azami. This is the path of innate sorcery mastery. Hakuri, especially with his dual sorcery, is the most suited for this path. He's a sorcery genius who's able to think on the fly and adapt to any situation with a body more durable than most. Chihiro wields Enten, an enchanted blade, and the second path to power. This is the path that his uncle Akimura Soga took, as well as his role model Seiichi Samura, one that was created by his father. This is the definitive path to the greatest possible power, though it comes with its fair share of trade-offs. We've discussed this path plenty on this channel, so I'm not going to bother saying much here, but the third path is one I've seen barely mentioned: basic sorcery, or fundamental sorcery, whichever you prefer to call it. The White Robes, the heads of the Kaminabi, have even more sorcery knowledge than the Masami. They're the peak of basic sorcery knowledge, and it was each key that trained up the Executioner Azami and the pinnacle of sorcery Shiba. Without a doubt, this third path is just as valid as the other two. Shiba's title is implied to be one given because he's mastered both paths to power available to him, innate and basic sorcery mastery, whereas Azami has only mastered innate sorcery. Regardless, I believe that it complements the trio of Kunishige, Shiba, and Azami for Chihiro, Iori, and Hakuri to embody the three paths to power in Kagurabachi. The Masami are Iori's guide to that final path to power, for her to be able to stand on the same level as Chihiro and Hakuri. Let's address the big reason why I prefer this possible path for Iori compared to Iori Mune. It's less narratively dissonant. Iori Mune requires an active disconnect from Kagurabachi's narrative in order to enjoy the hype moments in Aura. But that's the thing, hype moments in Aura get their hype from build-up and payoff. Iori Mune would not be a satisfying payoff for Iori and Samura's relationship, and it would instead be a boring cash-out for the sake of hype and nerfing the team. Alternatively, Masamori is more narratively resonant because it doesn't contradict the direction of the story and allows Iori to build up her own identity outside of Samura while still remaining in his orbit. He can still train her and help her master the White Purity style, be a present father, and keep Tobimune in his possession. I've only seen Iori Mune treated as an inevitability in talks of what would look cool or be hype, something that seems to not take into account the writing. Even when the writing is discussed, it's because of the aforementioned complaints about the power scale, which these recent chapters are very quickly disproving. Alternatively, it's because of the very obvious death flags, which are disproven time and time again. For months now, people have been saying, Samura's gonna die, Samura's gonna die, Samura's gonna die. And every couple chapters, Samura shows exactly why he's lived this long. Samura's death isn't being built up to, and I'll go so far as to put that on Mike Up's life. And so, I hope you got something out of this video. Even if you don't personally want to put stock in the Masami Iori agenda, I hope you can at least see the vision. If you enjoyed this discussion, I would encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel for more Kagurabachi content, if available, hyping, and of course, liking the video and commenting. My friend Nano was the one who brought the idea of Masami Iori to me initially, so if you've made it this far, feel free to comment. Nano is the GOAT in all caps. With all of that said, I am Artispheria, and please, have yourselves a damn good one.